stop. Before the words, "I'm sorry," leave your mouth one more time. I need you to really hear me. Because what I'm about to tell you will permanently change how you see power, respect, and human nature. Be honest with yourself. Do you apologize when you're not actually wrong? Do you say sorry just to keep the peace? Do you secretly believe that apologizing makes you the bigger person? That it proves you're mature and strong? If you nodded your head to any of that, you've been walking straight into one of the most destructive traps of your life. The world fed you a story. That's a good person. They apologize. It takes strength to say sorry. People will respect you more when you admit fault. But here's the reality. Every unnecessary apology you make is like dropping a piece of your power on the floor and letting someone wipe their feet on it. Your apologies aren't just polite. They're not building bridges. Most of the time, they're digging your grave. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He watched rulers who apologized constantly lose their grip on power. He watched kind, good people say sorry, and then get crushed by the very people they were trying to appease. He saw a pattern almost nobody wants to admit. People don't respect your apologies. They use them. Today, I'm going to show you the brutal cost of apologies. The hidden tax you pay every time those two little words leave your mouth. You're going to see why constantly apologizing makes you invisible, why people don't appreciate your sorry, they exploit it, and most importantly, how to stop bleeding power without turning into a heartless monster. Because I'm not telling you to become cold and incapable of admitting fault. I'm not saying you should never acknowledge a mistake. I'm showing you the difference between strategic acknowledgement and desperate apology. Owning your actions and surrendering your power. In a world where everyone is fighting for status and respect, apologizing without strategy is like stepping onto a battlefield with no armor and no weapon. You will get destroyed. So before we go further, type this in the comments right now. I own my power. From this moment on, you're done apologizing on autopilot. You're going to understand what those words really cost you. You're going to learn when silence is stronger than sorry. Let's start with the first brutal truth. 1. The death of your presence. Listen carefully. Every time you say "I'm sorry" when it isn't needed, something in you dies a little. Your presence, your energy, your right to exist fully in the space you're in. You think you're being kind, you think you're being considerate, but what you're actually doing is slowly erasing yourself from the room. Watch what happens to your body when you apologize like this. Your spine bends, your shoulders cave in, your chest collapses, your voice gets softer, your eyes drop or dart away. You physically shrink. That isn't just body language. That's your spirit folding in on itself. That's your power evaporating right in front of everybody. You're sending a message to the world and to your own nervous system. I don't really deserve to be here. And the world listens. People feel that. They see you disappearing in real time, and they treat you like someone who's fading out of existence. Easy to ignore, easy to interrupt, easy to dismiss. Easy to step over. You become invisible, not because you're naturally quiet, not because you're small, but because you keep apologizing for existing. You say sorry for speaking, sorry for asking a question, sorry for having an opinion, sorry for taking up time, space, and attention. You are apologizing for breathing. Meanwhile, the world is full of people doing the opposite. They're pushing outward, they're claiming territory. They walk into a room like they belong there, and nobody questions it. And what do? You hand them your spot. Every unnecessary apology is like saying, "Here, take my space. I'm not worthy of it anyway." You wonder why people walk all over you, but you lay down first. You wonder why your voice doesn't matter. But you apologize before you even speak. You wonder why people don't take you seriously, but you show them you don't take yourself seriously. Every sorry becomes a signal. I am prey. I am lower. I will move aside. I will bend. And people respond to that signal, not because they're always evil, but because that's exactly how power works. Power flows toward the person who claims it, and away from the person who gives it up. Every time you say I'm sorry for just existing, you're waving a white flag. You're not creating harmony. You're training everyone around you. I am the one who backs down. I am the one who yields. I am optional. Machiavelli once wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." You're trying to be loved with your apologies. You're trying to be accepted. You want everyone to feel comfortable with you. But in the process, you make yourself forgettable. When you're merely nice, people overlook you. When you're respected, they notice you. They pause before talking over you. They think twice before dismissing you. That's what you sacrifice every time you apologize just for being here. Your existence in other people's reality. So hear this clearly. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop apologizing for breathing air you already earned by being alive. You have as much right to this room, this moment, this life as anyone else. Type this in the comments and start rewiring your identity. I claim my space. 2. The hunger you create. Now let's talk about something that will shake you. When you apologize to someone, you don't just give them closure. Most of the time, you give them a high. Think of your apology like this. You just handed someone the most addictive drug in the world, power over another human being. The first time you apologize and bow your head, they get their first hit. You lower yourself. They feel taller. You submit. They feel superior. Their brain releases dopamine. It feels like winning, and humans love to win. So what do you think happens next? Their brain wants that feeling again, and again, and again. You've now activated a neurological reward loop, except you're not in control of it. You've put them in control. They've just learned this pattern, whether they realize it or not. 1. Get upset. 2. You apologize. 3. They feel powerful, so their brain quietly says, "Let's do that again." Watch what happens in real life. The people you apologize to the most somehow become the people who are offended by you the most. That's not random. That's conditioning. You didn't just satisfy their hurt feelings. You trained them. If I act hurt, I get power. If I show I'm offended, I get submission. If I push them emotionally, they go down on their knees. Suddenly, everything you say bothers them. Every tiny mistake wounds them. Every small disagreement becomes a tragedy. Not because the situation is that serious, but because their brain knows that your apology feels good. You think you're preserving peace. You think you're being mature. You think you're being emotionally responsible. What you're really doing is feeding an addiction. And the addiction is this: their addiction to feeling powerful over you. So now you're stuck in a loop. They get upset. You rush in with, "I'm sorry." They feel strong. Their brain wants that again. The more you apologize, the more they need you to apologize. You are no longer solving problems. You're supplying a drug. And here is the part that will break you if you don't wake up. That hunger is never satisfied. You cannot apologize enough to make them finally say, "Okay, that's enough. Now I never need you to apologize again." That moment never comes. Why? Because if they ever truly felt satisfied, they'd lose their supply of power. And people hate losing a source of power. So instead, they push harder. they find more reasons to be upset. They get more sensitive. They take things more personally. One apology turns into 10. 10 apologies turn into a lifestyle, where you are apologizing for your tone, your face, your mood, your silence, your existence. And here's the brutal twist. The more you apologize, the more they say, "You're always apologizing. You clearly have issues. You're always messing up. I can't be around someone who's constantly in the wrong." They weaponize the pattern you created with your submission, and then use it to label you as the problem. Machiavelli said, "Men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that the deceiver will always find someone ready to be deceived." You're deceiving yourself. You think, "I'm keeping things calm. I'm holding everything together. I'm being kind." But really, you're building a dependency. You're training people to crave your submission. You're teaching them that the fastest way to feel strong is to break you. The only way out of this? You have to stop feeding the addiction. That means stop giving automatic apologies. Stop rushing to say "I'm sorry" at the first sign of tension. Stop providing them with that hit of power. Because when you stop, something predictable will happen. They will escalate. They'll get louder, more dramatic, more offended, more emotional. They will do anything to pull you back into the pattern, because their nervous system is screaming, "Where's my fix? Where's my apology? Where's my hit of superiority?" But listen to me. You are not responsible for their withdrawal. You are only responsible for cutting off your role as the supplier. That's it. You are done being their emotional drug dealer. Type this in the comments and make it a rule for your life. I starve weakness. 3. The permanent record. Now we move to the next cost, one that almost nobody thinks about. Your apologies don't vanish into thin air. They don't disappear after the moment passes. They get stored. Every time you say, "I'm sorry," you are creating a record in people's minds. Every apology becomes a little entry in a mental file called evidence that you fail. And here's the thing about human memory. It doesn't work like a camera. It doesn't store accurate recordings. It stores stories. So when you apologize, the story people build is almost never the one you think you're telling. You think you're saying, "I respect you enough to admit I was wrong. I'm mature enough to acknowledge my mistake." But here's what their brain usually hears. You're unreliable. You're sloppy. You're emotionally unstable. You're the one who causes problems. You apologize once for being late. The story becomes, "They're unreliable." You apologize once for a mistake at work. The story becomes, "They're incompetent." You apologize once for something you said. The story becomes, "They're always causing issues." One "I'm sorry" outweighs 10 things you did right, because apologies emotionally stand out. They're sticky. They mark you. And remember, those apologies don't stay separate in people's minds. They stack. Your apology for being late, plus your apology for a tone, plus your apology for a small error. Over time, that pile becomes your identity. They're always apologizing. If they're always apologizing, they must always be messing up. You become the person who is wrong. That's your brand. That's your role. That's the filter through which they interpret everything you do. Do something good? Well, they're trying to make up for all their screw-ups. Do something neutral? We'll see how they mess this up eventually. Do something slightly off? See? This is what they always do. Your apologies built this narrative, brick by brick, word by word. And years from now, people may not remember what you apologized for, but they will remember the feeling of you always being the one on your knees. That's how dangerous unnecessary apologies truly are. Now let's go deeper into this permanent record idea, because this part destroys more reputations, relationships, and self-worth than almost anything else. When you apologize, people don't remember the details. They remember the pattern. They don't remember why you apologized. What happened? Who caused what? Whether you were actually wrong. They remember that you were the one apologizing. Meanwhile, think about the person who never apologizes. They might make mistakes just as often as you, maybe more. But because they never document their failures with the words, "I'm sorry," their file stays clean. They stay confident. They stay strong. They stay busy. They stay unbothered. Same actions, different perception. All because you record your flaws while they refuse to record theirs. And human memory, unfair as it is, always sides with the person who appears strong. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are." Your apologies make you appear constantly faulty, even when the truth is far more balanced. This is the twisted logic of human perception. The apologizer becomes the flawed one. The silent one becomes the strong one. That's why you must understand. Every unnecessary apology is an entry in a permanent file, one that will be used, subtly or openly, against you. And the longer you've been the apologizer, the harder it becomes to rewrite that identity. But it can be rewritten. It starts the moment you stop feeding the record. Type this in the comments and start breaking the old narrative. I rewrite my story for the blame magnet effect. Now we move into something both psychological and brutally practical. Humans are always searching for someone to blame. It's built into us. When something goes wrong, when tension rises, when the air gets heavy, everyone's mind starts scanning for a target. And guess who gets selected? The one who has demonstrated over and over that they take blame easily. The one who never pushes back. The one who apologizes even when they're not at fault. You. Your apologies paint a huge bullseye on your back. The moment you start saying, "I'm sorry," for little things, for unimportant things, for things that weren't even your fault, you create a default expectation. You're the one who takes responsibility here. You're the one who will smooth things over. You're the one who will take the hit. You volunteered to be the scapegoat. And humans, being the path of least resistance creatures that they are, will take you up on that offer every single time. Let me show you how this works. A project goes wrong, people look at you. Someone's upset in the group, people expect you to apologize. There's tension, you jump in first with, "Sorry, that was my fault," even when it wasn't. And here's what happens. The more you take blame, the more people expect you to take blame. Your apologies create a gravitational pull for everyone's responsibility. Blame wants to stick to you because you made yourself the easiest target. Meanwhile, the person who refuses to apologize, who stays silent, who doesn't flinch, who waits out the tension, they're seen as strong, busy, unaffected, confident. Even if they caused the problem, you apologize to keep the peace. They stay quiet to keep the power. But you don't see what they're doing. When things go wrong, they let the silence stretch. They let the discomfort grow. They let everyone look around nervously. And then, like clockwork, you break first. You apologize to relieve the pressure. And in that moment, you've volunteered again. You've reinforced your identity as the one who apologizes, the one who fixes tension, the one who takes the hit. Here's the cruel part. If you suddenly stop apologizing, people get angry because you changed the script, because you're breaking the pattern, because now they might have to take responsibility, and they will resist that with everything they have. People will say things like, "You're acting different. Why are you being cold? You usually apologize. What's going on with you? Are you saying it's not your fault?" They're not upset because you hurt them. They're upset because they've lost a resource. You made their life easy. You handled the guilt. You absorbed the tension. You made them feel blameless. And now you're not doing that anymore. Too bad. You're not here to be anyone's emotional garbage bin. You're not here to carry blame that doesn't belong to you. You're not here to apologize every time there's a silence in the room. Let the silence sit. Let them squirm. Let the tension grow. This is where the power shifts. Your new role is simple. If it's not your fault, don't own it. If it's not your responsibility, don't take it. If you didn't cause the problem, don't jump in to solve it by apologizing. Let people feel the weight of their own actions for once. Type this in the comments and mean every word. I deflect blame. 5. The forgiveness trap. Now we enter one of the darkest truths in this entire topic. When someone says, "I forgive you," most of the time they're not wiping the slate clean. They're storing your apology like ammunition. Not everyone does this consciously, but the pattern is real. People save your apologies for later. Real forgiveness is rare. Most people don't let go, they bank it. Your apology becomes a weapon they can use in the next argument, in the next disagreement, in the next moment. They want leverage. In the next moment, they want to prove you're the problem. That thing you apologized for 6 months ago, it's not gone. It's hibernating. And the moment they need a way to win, they bring it back. Remember when you apologized for doing that? I forgave you, and now you're doing something similar. I'm seeing a pattern with you. You said sorry before, so clearly you have issues. This is the forgiveness trap. Your apology didn't create peace. It created a paper trail, a documented, stamped, and archived record of your failure, and people will use it. Some people even push for apologies specifically because it gives them future leverage. They collect them like trophies. The more they have, the more power they hold over you. The more you apologize, the more ammunition you hand over. And the most dangerous part? They'll smile while they do it. They'll act gracious. They'll say, "I forgive you." They'll seem generous, kind, fair. But behind the scenes, they're filing it away under a folder labeled, "Use this later." This is human nature at its most strategic. Not everyone is malicious, but everyone understands that having someone else's apology gives them the upper hand. Machiavelli wrote, "Men ought either to be well treated or crushed. Lighter injuries they can avenge." Your apologies are lighter injuries to yourself. Small enough to survive, but painful enough to stay on record, and strong enough to be used against you. From now on, understand this. Every apology is potential ammunition. Every "I'm sorry" is a weapon placed into someone else's hands. You must decide, are you handing out weapons, or are you protecting your power? If you refuse to play this game, you must refuse the trap. Type this in the comments. I refuse the trap. 6. The death of your inner fire. There's something happening inside you every time you apologize unnecessarily, something slow, quiet, and devastating. It's not just your presence shrinking in the outside world. It's not just your reputation taking a hit. It's something far deeper. Your inner fire is dying. Every unnecessary apology rewires your mind. Every "I'm sorry" you didn't need to say becomes a signal to your own brain. I'm wrong. I'm flawed. I'm the problem. I'm not enough. And the human mind believes repetition. Say anything often enough, even a lie, and it becomes your truth. This is how people lose themselves without realizing it. Not through one big moment, but through thousands of tiny self-betrayals. Over time, you begin second-guessing everything. Should I say that? Should I ask that? Should I do that? Should I speak up? What if I offend someone? Eventually, you stop moving boldly altogether. You stop taking risks. You stop expressing opinions. You stop asserting yourself. You stop wanting anything that might cause conflict. You turn into a ghost in your own life, present, but faint. Breathing, but barely living. Existing, but without any spark. People with inner fire walk differently. They speak differently. They carry themselves with a kind of quiet certainty that says, I belong here. But when you apologize constantly, you slowly convince yourself that you don't belong, that you're a burden, that your existence needs permission. And when that becomes your internal script, confidence is no longer accessible. You can't fake it. You can't posture your way into it. Confidence isn't about loudness. It's about conviction. And apologies chip away at conviction until nothing remains. That's why this transformation is so dangerous. You don't notice it happening. You don't wake up one day saying, my inner fire is gone. Instead, one apology at a time, you dim yourself. Sorry for talking. Sorry for asking. Sorry for needing something. Sorry for having a boundary. Sorry for taking up space. Until you become someone who feels small by default. But here's the truth you need to hear. You were not born powerless. You were conditioned into powerlessness. And you can break that conditioning. Your inner fire can come back, but only if you stop pouring water on it. Only if you stop letting apologizing be your automatic reflex. Only if you stop backing down every time you feel tension. You rebuild your inner fire by choosing moments of courage, even small ones. Speaking without apologizing. Saying no without explanation. Standing tall instead of shrinking. Holding eye contact instead of looking down. Letting silence exist without rushing to fill it. These are the sparks that reignite the flame, because that fire is not gone. It's buried, and it's waiting for you to stop suffocating it. Say this out loud, or write it in the comments. I reignite my fire. 7. The power of strategic silence. Everything in this entire transformation leads to one final, life-changing truth. A truth almost nobody teaches you because it threatens the systems that depend on your compliance. Silence is power, not the silence of fear, not the silence of avoidance, not the silence of being small. I'm talking about strategic silence. The kind of silence that flips power dynamics, disrupts old patterns, and forces people to confront themselves instead of hiding behind your endless apologies. Let's break this open. You were taught that silence is rude, so you rush to speak. You were taught silence is cold, so you rush to explain. You were taught silence means guilt, so you rush to apologize. You've been conditioned your whole life to fill every gap with softness, every pause with self-blame, every moment of tension with, I'm sorry. But here's what no one wants to admit. Most conflicts don't need your apology. Most tension doesn't need your smoothing over. Most awkwardness isn't yours to fix. In fact, your apologies often stop other people from facing their own behavior. Your apologies protect them from having to look in the mirror. Strategic silence forces that mirror into their hands. Let me show you how it works. Something goes wrong. Voices rise. Someone gives you a look. Tension fills the air. Your old programming wants you to jump in immediately. Sorry, my fault. Let me fix this. But instead, you do nothing. You breathe. You keep your spine straight. You hold your expression, and you let the silence sit. This silence is not weakness, it's pressure. It's accountability without saying a single word. It's the opposite of surrender. In that silence, people start evaluating. Did I overreact? Was I too harsh? Maybe I was the one out of line. Something they never do when you instantly shield them from discomfort with, "I'm sorry." Silence forces them to confront what they brought into the situation. And you know what else happens? Someone else, often the real cause of the problem, steps up. Not because they're noble, but because the discomfort becomes unbearable. Meanwhile, you remain calm, unbent, and unapologetic. That is the moment the power shifts. But here's what makes strategic silence so powerful. It breaks the pattern. People expect you to apologize. They expect you to fold. They expect you to fill the silence because you trained them to believe you would. So when you don't, they get confused, they get unsettled, they get insecure. And that insecurity exposes the truth. Their comfort was built on your submission. Without your apology, the entire dynamic collapses. Now understand this clearly. Strategic silence is not avoidance. It's not passive aggression. It's not shutting people out. It's active restraint. It's choosing power over panic. It's holding your ground without a single wasted word. Think of it like this. Weak people react instantly. Strong people respond deliberately. Some of the most powerful leaders in history understood this. When you don't speak, you control the frame. You hold the tension. You force clarity. Machiavelli would say silence creates a void that others rush to fill, revealing their intentions, their emotions, and their weaknesses far faster than words ever could. But most importantly, silence protects your dignity. Because when you finally speak, if you choose to, it's intentional. Here's what happened. Here's what I'm doing next. Simple, clean, no excuses, no groveling, no self-erasure. This is what true accountability looks like, not apology performed out of fear, but clarity rooted in strength. And understand this. When you stop apologizing automatically, people will push back. They'll accuse you of changing. They'll say you're cold now. They'll ask why you're being difficult. But they're not reacting to your silence. They're reacting to the loss of control. People don't miss your apology. They miss the power your apology gave them. Let them miss it. You are done shrinking. You are done filling space that isn't yours. You are done apologizing yourself into invisibility. From now on, let silence speak for you. Let silence protect you. Let silence reveal who people really are. Because the moment you stop handing out apologies like gifts, the world will finally have to meet you as an equal, not a servant. Say this out loud or type it in the comments. I never apologize again.